Oh, y'all knew I was coming full speed today, didn't you? So hold on. First, I have to ask you a serious life and death question. Oh, very much so life and death. So many storylines for all my wonderful tinfoil hat wearing, truth-telling conspiracy theorists out there. Oh yes, very dramatic on purpose. If Barack Obama was willing to commit treason to stop Trump in 2016, if he used the CIA to spy on a presidential candidate, if he greenlit the Russia collusion hoax after Trump won, if he helped to disrupt the 2020 election to block a second term, if he cheered on 4 bogus indictments to bankrupt, imprison, and silence Trump forever, if even after Trump got elected they continued to try to disrupt we the people on our mandate for change, if along that little road trip suddenly Seth Rich ends up dead and Obama's personal chef dies in 3 feet of water, man, I don't even know what we're supposed to believe or not believe anymore. Interesting, isn't it? And then suddenly we fast forward into Butler, Pennsylvania, when the worst Secret Service failure in U.S. history, a rooftop, a shooter, a bullet that misses by less than a quarter an inch, an amateur assassin who somehow ends up in a perfect line of sight, no security, no explanations, no answers, and then cremated quickly, quietly, case closed. Don't look here. But we're not supposed to ask any questions. We knew nothing about the assassin, the setup, system failure. Why? But we're not supposed to ask questions. We weren't supposed to ask about Hillary. We were never supposed to ask about Obama, or Brennan, or Clapper, or Comey, or Strzok. Shut your mouth, you conspiracy theorists. You're all liars. But then it all comes back around, doesn't it? And I guess we were to ask questions. Because years and years later, those uncomfortable questions? I guess we weren't blind, deaf, and dumb. And I guess we weren't bought off now, were we? I guess we were the ones who always had the truth. And that is just the tip of the iceberg. I'll bring you in 1 minute.
As always, Emily, go ahead.
Thank you. And Director Gabbard, this one is for you. Do you believe that any of this new information implicates former President Obama in criminal behavior?
We have referred and will continue to refer all of these documents to the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate the criminal implications of this.
For even former President Obama?
Correct. The evidence that we have found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment. There are multiple pieces of evidence and intelligence that confirm that fact.
Down goes Obama. Down goes Obama. But the mainstream media, complicit in this entire effort, what do they do when Tulsi starts to discuss it? Watch here.
Multiple intelligence community assessments released in the months leading up to the November 2016 election concluded that Russia had neither the intent nor capability to impact the outcome of the U.S. election. On December 5th...
We've been listening there to the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, continuing on what has now been...
That's right. Cut away. Cut away quickly. They're going to realize we were complicit in all of this. Cut away. Please stop now. Years of fighting the machine. I covered this for you. Here was the initial release of information. How Obama, the secret meeting, we have no intelligence. Let's create intelligence out of nothing. Make sure not many people see it. Put the report out before we go out of office so we can destroy the next administration out of information that we created out of something that didn't exist. That was the initial. Then we have the new report, which makes it far worse. Because this report covers 2 people. 2. Hillary and Obama. Part 1 of today's broadcast, we will focus on Obama. Kind of. New evidence has emerged of the most egregious weaponization of politicization of intelligence in American history. Per President real Donald Trump's directive, I have declassified a House Intel Oversight Majority Staff report that exposes how the Obama administration manufactured in January of 2017 intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. Promoting the lie that Vladimir Putin and Russian government helped President Trump win the 2016 election. In doing so, they conspired to subvert the will of the American people, working with their partner in the media to promote the lie in order to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump, essentially enacting a years-long coup against him. Here are the top Obama-Russia hoax lies debunked by today's release. Got it? Check. Okay, good. Here. I love that she just gives us graphics. And she does a good job because a lot of people don't want to go into the detailed report. I'm going to go very high level into the detailed report because you know that's what we do here. I got to take a deep breath. Really excited about today's report. The creation of the Russia hoax. She goes a little detail now. She expanded. Not only from that December 8th briefing where, hey, we got some information. It's not really true. And it appears, Barack now wants to make sure we put some information out there because we don't want Donald Trump to be really effective. So we're going to create some information. Even though the CIA says, we don't really have any information. Just don't worry about that. We're going to go ahead and take little parts of the information. We're going to take the pros and not the cons. We're going to take the pluses and not the minuses. We're going to feed it to the American people because they're dumb enough to realize that we only took half the information, the part of the information that serves our purpose, and put it onto our own IC report and say that that's truth. And I'm going to show you how they did that. We're going to feed it to the mainstream media that we control. They're going to push it out as fact and everything will be just fine. Now, before I get there, if you like this style of reporting, I know it's not what you see on CNN or Washington Post or New York Times or whatever else the hell you want to call it. I don't want it to be. This is me. This is how we do. This is how we do stuff. Please subscribe if you appreciate it. The energy level means the world to me. Comment, share, join as a member. Super thanks. I love it. Support my sponsors, the people who help keep these lights and cameras on. And not only are they just sponsors, they actually do great services. Today is Chapter. These folks are amazing. Do you understand what Medicare is all about? I don't blame you if you don't. A lot of people don't. You got a loved one who's dealing with Medicare? Have you ever analyzed what's happening with it? Because it's a lot of bureaucracy, red tape, really hard to get through. And today, with one free phone call, 805-619, you see it on the screen, 805-619-5011. These are licensed Medicare professionals. All you have to do is make one free phone call. They go into your area. They find out all the options available to your loved one or you. They tell you what the options are, and you decide. It's that easy. My members have already saved, my audience have already saved thousands. The average person who calls Chapter saves $1,100 a year. What's it hurt? One free phone call. Not that tough, huh? Where else can you make one phone call, talk to a live person who's an expert in the area, and find out if you got the best program or not? Maybe you do, great. But what if you don't? You want to leave money on the table? That's your choice. If not, make the free phone call. What's it hurt? Call Chapter. Great people. See if you could save some money today. I know if I had that option, I know what I would be doing right now. I'd be calling 805-619-5011. But now, let's get back to this report. Where are we at? Oh, we're going to have some fun today. Putin and the Russian government helped Trump win the 2016 election. That's the lie. The truth is, President Obama, they had no information. We don't have direct information that Putin wanted to get Trump elected. Oh, actually, they had none whatsoever. In reality, if you want to take this in all reality, Putin knew and Putin had information against Hillary Clinton, showing that she had some problems up here and some problems in her health. And at any moment in time, Putin could have released that information and destroyed Hillary. So if he really supported President Trump, he could have dropped that bomb at any moment in time. But he didn't. Story should have ended there. But it didn't. No, they wanted to propagate a lie. So they didn't share that intelligence with you. See, I'm a pretty black and white guy. That's how tough this story was to understand. But we'll go on. President Obama, former CIA Director Brennan, and others fabricate the Russia hoax. How did they do it? Don't worry, I'll get into the details. The Steele dossier was not used as a source. So it absolutely was used as a source. They said, no, we didn't rely on it. Nope, that's all they relied on. So they relied on a fake created report to support a fake created report. Yep, that's exactly what they did. And so why should we believe any report that comes out of the government? Exactly. The Obama administration in 2017 ICA was an independent IC product. No, it wasn't. It was created by, well, a very slim amount of individuals who took some really great intelligence information that said, we can't really substantiate any of this stuff over here. They ignored it and they cherry-picked portions of the information, put it into their own report, told all these guys over here who actually know how to do their job, just shut up and stay out of our way. We're going to cherry pick it, not really show you what we're putting in the intelligence report, and shove it out before we're out of office so that we can control the narrative before Trump's team comes in. And then we're going to launch investigations until we destroy the man. That's the truth. How do I know that? Because I just don't take mainstream narratives. I read the report and validate. Oversight, investigation, and referral. And this is only part one. Just wait till I expand on. That's why I have Restricted Republic. Because we're going to go into Hillary after this. Are you over there yet? If you're at Restricted, you're hearing me talk about this right now. Don't worry, you'll see part two post after this. If you're not at Restricted, I want you there today, please. There's a reason. There's a reason that we have that platform. Trust me. President Putin ordered conventional. I'm going to go full screen because this is hard enough for me to read, let alone I can only imagine what you're trying to read. Here was the judgment of the declassified analysis of the BS report, the intelligence community assessment of the BS Russian influence campaign targeting the 2016 U.S. presidential election. That was released by the direction of, and it says in here, Obama himself. Okay? Create a report for me. President Putin ordered conventional and cyber influence operations, notably by leaking politically sensitive emails obtained from computer intrusions. Putin's principal motivations in these operations were undermine faith in U.S. democracy process and weaken the Russian considerations to be an inevitable Clinton presidency. And Putin held back leaking some compromised material for post-election use against the expected Clinton administration. What? That doesn't say he expect Trump to win. No, nowhere in there does it say he expected Trump to win. Actually, in here it says he doesn't really care who won. He was preparing for both eventualities. In all reality, he probably expected Clinton to win more. In all the intelligence reporting, there is, and it is right here, one scant, unclear, and unverifiable fragment in all the intelligence they had. One sentence from one substandard report that constitutes the only classified information that Putin aspired to help Trump win. I hope you understand the impact of that. One scant, unclear, unverifiable fragment that actually stated that this is what they based everything on. All the waste of time, all the headlines, all the trials, all the Mueller, everything else off of one unverifiable scan. I'm going to show it to you. It's in here. Freaking morons. So they picked 5 CIA analysts to produce a report out of nothing. Vladimir Putin launched conventional and cyber influence campaigns. Great. Okay. Notably by leaking politically sensitive emails obtained by computer intrusions of who? President Trump? No, of Hillary Clinton. That's whose information he had. Putin's principal motivations in these influence operations were to advance Moscow's longstanding desire to undermine U.S. democracy, which he always has, and considered to be an inevitable Clinton presidency. I know, shocking, folks, right? Shocking, shocking, shocking. CIA collection management officers, blah, blah, blah. They had no evidence of anything, so we go down here. This is great. So what the ICA report said Putin's intentions were, well, of course, we assessed the Russian leaders never entirely abandoned hope for a defeat of Secretary Clinton, which is a lie. And why is it a lie? Because they never, and look at my check marks, I'll even show it to you here, they never properly qualified any credible sources. They never explained any associations with any judgments. They never, let me get that out of the way again, sorry. They never had any confidence in any assessments or any quality of sources. They never informed by any relevant information available or considered alternative perspectives or were independent of any political considerations. So basically they took any normal process and they threw it in the garbage. Unlike routine IC analysis, the ICA was a high-profile product ordered by the president, directed by IC agency heads, and created by just 5 CIA analysts using one principal drafter, which, folks, is not done. It was a creation, a figment of someone's imagination. Putin had made this. Here's the only reference in any of the pre-existing intelligence prior to this created report that Putin had ever said about Trump, but this was unsubstantiated. The unclear fragment states Putin had made this decision to leak DNC emails after he had come to believe that the Democratic nominee had better odds of winning the U.S. presidential election, and that candidate Trump, whose victory Putin was counting on, most likely would not be able to pull off a convincing victory. I know that sentence makes no sense. A senior CIA operations officer said of the fragment, "We don't know what was meant by that." And 5 people read it 5 different ways. And that was the sentence that the only sentence ever referenced in any of the previous intelligence that said Putin and Trump were aligned. Millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, hours and hours and hours and hours of wasted time because of that sentence. Welcome to the United States federal government. Waste, fraud, and abuse? What do you think? None of the confirmed Russian activities, leaks, public statements, social media messages, or traditional propaganda corroborate the ICA interpretation of the fragment because these activities were all consistent with BS. Nothing. Garbage. Junk. So I'll give you one example of what they did and how they cherry-picked. The first bullet, evidence of Putin's clear preference for Trump, as early as, this was in the ICA, the BS report, as early as February 2016, a Russian political expert possesses a plan that recommended engagement with Trump's team because of the prospect for improved U.S.-Russian relations, according to reporting from blank government service. Wow, America read that and said, see, Trump and Russia are colluding. One problem. The ICA bullet text is alarming, implying the existence of a Russian plan for engagement with the Trump campaign that most readers would see as strong evidence of President Putin showing a clear preference for Trump. But the ICA omits any context, which, had it been available to the reader, would show the report to be implausible, if not ridiculous, and missing so many key details as to be unusable, such as the email had no date, no identified sender, no recipient, and no classification. In other words, someone typed it on a piece of paper, said it was an email, and said it was then evidence. And they put it in the report. God, this is the U.S. government. You see why people go crazy and the mainstream media is not covering this and why we all go insane? This is literally the context of the report. And Obama and his team are coming out and saying, this was verifiable. And Marco Rubio even said this was verifiable at one point in time. The whole of government. Mea culpa, I know. Is there really any reason to read much more? That's okay. That's okay. we could just make it even worse if you like. Can your heart handle it? What the ICA calls a Russia plan for engagement with Trump was actually an anonymous email. Written by who? A service that was anti-Trump. So if they didn't like information that was provided in the report, they found a service or an agency that was anti-Trump to get a counter quote to put into the report so that it appeared as if Trump and Putin were together. Yes. The ICA described the information in terms that most readers would view as more evidence that President Putin would have a clear preference for Trump, but this is only accomplished by omitting key context details. The ICA obscures the source as a blank service when it actually came from the other blank service. Had the bullet clarified that it was from the blank service, some readers might have known of the blank service's anti-Trump bias at the time, which would further undermine the actual judgment of what was quoted, but that's not important. Why do you, the American public, actually need context of truth? The ICA, because they were in such a hurry to get this out, also just misquotes things within the report. They said that Putin and his inner circle strongly preferred Republicans. But the phrase strongly preferred Republicans doesn't even appear in the raw intelligence. I know, it's an inconvenient fact. This is why you go into the details of the report, because it really goes to show you how much of a lunatic and lunacy this is all about. And I can go example after example after example. DNI Clapper comments on ICA citation of the third report. I have reviewed the underlying source material myself and entirely concur. This is why he's now lawyered up, by the way. He gonna go get a lawyer. He just was on with Caitlin Collins. I think it's time I go get a lawyer. This is why they're lawyering up. I have reviewed the underlying source material myself and entirely concur in the judgment of the analysis, which I believe is consistent with the standards of analytical tradecraft and objectivity. But in following up on every citation, none were found to corroborate the ICA claims. The ICA also used the third substandard report to claim that members of Putin's inner circle have compared Trump to other leaders with business interests, but supporting evidence for the judgment wasn't there. The cited liaison report didn't mention Trump at all, and the cited signet also didn't mention Trump. So much for reviewing your underlying sources that never mentioned anything you said they mentioned in your report. DNI Clapper and Brennan and Obama. You just out and out lie. You just out and out crap. It is no more substantiated than the Steele dossier. No more substantiated. It is at the same BS level. Except the only difference is Obama was able to say it with a much more refined tone. This is what we are now dealing with, folks. Don't worry. Because it's the closing paragraph before we even get to Hillary that tells you everything. Acting on President Obama's orders, DCIA Brennan directed a full review and publication of the HUMINT information that had been collected before the election. CIA officers said that some of the information had been held, while other reporting had been judged by experienced CIA officers to have not met long-standing publication standards. But don't worry about it. Put it out. And now you got a problem. Now you have a problem, don't you? But would nonetheless be published after the election over the objections of veteran officers. And now you have a problem because everyone in the circle knew it was bullshit. And you destroyed America over it. You wasted 4 years of our lives over it. You made sure we the people got nothing for 4 years that we could have gotten. And you destroyed a man's life over it. Many men's and women's lives over it. And the security of our nation over it. And now, you get a strike force against you over it. Folks, this ain't going away. The storm is here. And if this don't hit, nothing will. Nothing will. If this doesn't work, it's game over. It's over. The institution wins if this doesn't work. Just telling you. And this is before we get to the fact, like I said in the beginning, that Putin had everything he needed to get Trump elected. Everything on Hillary. He had it in his hand because he already compromised her email system. He already had Obama's emails too, at least a portion of them. And he had her entire health report in his hands waiting. And at any moment in time, he had it before the election, he could have dropped it. And the moment he dropped it, Trump would have won. But he didn't do it because he didn't support Trump. He could care less. So if you want to learn more about it, join me over at restrictedrepublic.com right now. And trust me, I carry this passion all the way through. This is what I do. I love you all. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless Justice Knight. Signing out.